Morning, everyone, and welcome to we'll start off with the Source Protection Authority meeting dated April 25th, 2025. So I will now read the land acknowledgement. The Niagara Peninsula watershed is situated within the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Adirondack, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississauga of the Credit, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties 3.4 and 381 and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the watershed is home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. At the NPCA, we strive to further our commitment to shared stewardship of natural resources and deep appreciation of Indigenous culture and history in the watershed in small ways every day. I will now call this meeting to order and have the clerk do the roll call, please.
Member Beatty? Member Clark? Member Cridland?
Present.
Member Foster?
Present.
Member Grant?
Present.
Chair Metcalf? Member O'Neill? Member Seaborn? Member Chattison is shared regrets, and Member Witteveen. All right, and that's quorum, Chair.
Thank you. So I'll need approval of the agenda, a motion that the agenda for the Source Protection Authority meeting dated April 2025 be approved. I have a mover and seconder. Moved by Member Grant, seconded by Vice Chair Beatty. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And I see that Member Seaborn has joined us now.
Oh, perfect.
So is there any conflicts of interest? Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare? Seeing none. Approval of the minutes for the Source Protection meeting, Authority meeting dated April 29th, 2024. The motion that the minutes of the Source Protection Authority meeting dated April 19th, 2024 be approved. And mover and seconder. Moved by Member Foster, second by Member Cridland. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. There is no correspondence. We have a presentation today under 5.1, Niagara Peninsula Source Protection Area Overview and Updates. I will now invite Source Protection Water Protection Hydrology Specialist Tom Prokes to the podium to provide a brief presentation on Source Protection Area Updates.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? All right. Okay, it's been a while since I've been up here, obviously, a year since the last meeting, but my name is Thomas Prokes, for those who don't know me. I'm the Source Water Protection Hydrogeology Specialist at the NPCA, and today's presentation is just a brief overview of Source Protection Program and overview and updates, where we are and where we're going. And it's always a good idea to talk about source protection when we get the chance. So we tested this, it worked, and now it doesn't work. Maybe I have to turn this on. No, it's on. Okay. Can you just advance for me, please? Okay, so where did Source Protection Program come from? In May of 2000, Walkerton's drinking water system became contaminated with deadly bacteria, resulting in the deaths of 7 people and over 2,300 illnesses, and some with lasting effects that still continue today. Justice Dennis O'Connor was commissioned to lead an inquiry into that event, and more broadly, the safety of Ontario's drinking water. And then the result of that came the Clean Water Act, which came into force July 3rd, 2007. The Clean Water Act establishes source protection as part of our multi-barrier approach, which makes up Ontario's drinking water safety net. And that's the graphic at the bottom here. So we have source water protection, and then water treatment, inspection, testing, distribution, and then finally our drinking water. Next slide, please. So continuing, this Clean Water Act established 38 source protection areas across the province, generally based on conservation authority boundaries. And source protection plans are now in place today for municipal residential drinking water systems within those 38 source protection areas, representing approximately 90% of the population within those areas. So that's not 90% of Ontario, but just 90% within source protection areas. Next slide, please. These are the source protection areas across the province, generally from Ottawa all the way and then to the southern Ontario. And then we have a couple standalone ones in the north. So around Thunder Bay, Sudbury, North Bay, and Temagami, I think, or it's Timmins anyways, it's central, but I forget the name of the region off the top of my head. So there's 38 source protection areas, and where it made sense to do so, they combined a lot of those areas into what are called source protection regions. So for example, Halton and Hamilton, they're individual source protection areas, but they share a source protection committee and are defined as a region. Here in Niagara, we are a standalone source protection area where we have our own committee and chair, and we just deal with Niagara. Next slide, please. This is a zoomed in shot of our source protection area and our accompanying vulnerable areas associated with our drinking water treatment plants. We have 6 of them. We have Grimsby, we have DeQ Falls, Welland, Port Colborne, Rose Hill, which is in Fort Erie, and Niagara Falls. And those are the accompanying intake protection zones that delineate the source water and the area where to be protected. Next slide, please. This is what the source protection process looks like. There was a step 1, which we don't really include anymore because it was in the original one, but that was to develop a terms of reference. The terms of reference outlined who does what, but all that meant is that we then came to an assessment report, a source protection plan, which then underwent review and approval, and then finally implementation. So we're currently in implementation and have been for a while. But we have this arrow on the top for future updates, which circles back where we review the assessment report, update it, source protection plan, it goes through review and approval again, and then we'll be in implementation again. So the assessment report identifies municipal water systems, delineates the vulnerable areas, identifies the threats. The source protection plans develops policies to address those threats and develops timing policies for implementation of those. And then review and approval is our stakeholder engagement, public consultation, and then finally the ministry is our final approval authority for those documents. And then lastly is implementing bodies adhere to the policies that we develop, and we do the monitoring and report on that progress, which you guys will see today in the report, SPA01. So next slide, please. So where are we? So we're currently in process with early engagement with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks on our Section 36 updates. Section 36 is a section under the Clean Water Act where the Minister of the Environment orders us to update the assessment report and source protection plan. So we've been under this order for a little while, and the order suggested that we update our plan and include our municipal drinking water treatment plant updates and then also any technical rule changes. The source protection plan is adherent to the technical rules under the Clean Water Act, and those recently changed in 2017 and 2021. And so we've been undergoing a process to update our source protection plan and assessment report to bring it up to speed with those new rules. And also we've been kind of going back and forth in the Niagara region on their municipal drinking water treatment plant upgrades. The timing of which hasn't always balanced out, which is why we sort of delayed our Section 36 updates. So now going forward, we are doing a Section 36 update that doesn't include the drinking water treatment plants because they're not ready and they're not in a state of being incorporated into the plan. And we're just doing policy updates as a result of the technical rule changes from 2017 and 2021. Our future municipal water treatment plant upgrades, which include Niagara Falls and Rose Hill, will be captured under separate Section 34 updates. So the difference between 34 and 36, 36 is minister ordered, 34 is SPA initiated. So we initiate the updates to the plan, and that is based on communications with Niagara Region saying we're ready to get these new intakes in service. And in order, under a recently passed, I think 2018 regulation, municipalities cannot serve drinking water to the public unless there is an approved source protection plan and assessment report in place. So that's why the timing matters. So that's where we are. And then next slide, please. Going forward, so we are continuing our Clean Water Act annual reporting requirements under, which you'll see today under SPA 0125. And then we're also updating our delegation requirements to issue notices. So one of those requirements that I just mentioned about delivering drinking water to the public requires us as the Source Protection Authority to issue notices to Niagara Region whenever they request those notices. And I think if we did nothing, then it would be up to the board to issue those notices. And because we don't get to go in front of the board often, and sometimes these things might have a timing issue, before I even started here, they delegated that authority to the director. But at the time, the director had a title of, I think, watershed strategies or manager or something. And so we are updating that under SPO2 today to change that delegation to the director of planning and development. And then finally, we're finalizing our assessment report and source protection plan updates based on our early engagement we have with the ministry right now. And then from there, we'll do public consultation. So before we do our public consultation, the committee will see the draft source protection plan and assessment report. They will have their say and approve, and then it'll come to the board for your say and approval, and then we go to public consultation. So we're hoping that this happens this year, and you'll see me again to discuss that. And then finally, after public consultation is done, the board approves the results of that as well. And then we do our final submission to the ministry where they have the ultimate final approval. That's it, I believe. So I'm here for any questions, and also if when you are deliberating the two reports in front of you today, I can also answer questions. Thank you.
Great, Tom. Lots of information there, and glad to see there's lots of checks and balances to keep our drinking water safe. Are there any questions for Tom at this point? Okay, seeing none. Thanks, Tom, for a great presentation. So I have a motion in front of me that the Niagara Peninsula Source Protection Area Overview and updates presented be received. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Vice Chair Beatty, seconded by Member Whitavine. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. There are no delegations. There are no consent items. Discussion item under number 8.1, report SPA-01-25, 2024 Drinking Water Source Protection Annual Progress Report. So I have a motion that the report SPA-01-2025, 2024 Drinking Water Source Protection Annual Progress Report be received. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Member Foster, second by Member Seaborn. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Before we vote on that, there's the motion continues. So the source protection area receive the following draft final report documents approved by the Source Protection Committee on March 18, 2025. A, NPCA 2024 Drinking Water Source Protection Annual Progress Report. B, NPSPA 2024 Policy Implementation Status Summary. And C, NPSPA 2024 Supplemental Form, and that the Source Protection Authority approve that the aforementioned documents be submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to meet the legislated reporting requirements, and further that the NPSPA 2024 Drinking Water Source Protection Annual Progress Report be posted on the Niagara Peninsula Source Protection Area website. So could I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Moved by Member Cridlin, second by Member Foster. Thank you. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. So I have report SPA-02-2025, issuance of notice to Niagara Region for approval. I have a motion that the report number SPA-0225 in issuance of notices to Niagara Region be received, and that the Source Protection Authority delegate to the Director Planning and Development the authority to issue notices to Niagara Region for the purpose of Ontario Regulation 287/07. Have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please. Moved by Member Whitavine, second by Vice Chair Beatty. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Is there any new business? Anyone have new business forward to the Source Protection Authority? Seeing none. There is no closed session today, so I'll have a motion for adjournment that the April 25, 2025 Source Protection Authority meeting be adjourned. Mover? Member Foster, second, Member Grant. All in favor? Adjourned. What's this now? Oh, okay. So it is now at the current time of 10:20. I will call this meeting to order and ask that the clerk do a roll call for the full board authority meeting for April 25th, 2025 of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority.
Member Clark,
Here.
Vice Chair Beatty, Member Cridland,
Present.
Member Foster,
Present.
Member Grant,
Present.
Member O'Neill,
Present.
Chair Metcalf, Member Seaborn,
Present. Present.
Member Whitavine, and we have regrets from Member Toddison, so that is quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have two presentations that correspond with staff reports, so I will propose a friendly amendment to deal with the reports related to matters in the presentations consecutively. So I have a motion that the agenda for the full authority board meeting held on April 25, 2025 be amended to address items 9.1 immediately, following in item 6.1 and item 8.1 immediately following 6.2. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Moved by Member Quinlan, second by Vice Chair Beatty. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest? Seeing none. So can I get a mover and seconder to approve the March 21st full authority and closed session meeting minutes? The motion reads that the minutes of the full authority meeting and the closed session minutes of the full authority meeting dated March 21st, 2025 be approved. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Member Seaborn, second by Member Grant. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. So at this time, I have an update from the chair. So spring has officially arrived, and with it, our teams have been hard at work preparing for the 2025 conservation area season, which kicks off May 1st and runs until Thanksgiving Monday. On April 14th, I attended Conservation Ontario Council's annual general meeting alongside our vice chair and CAO. I'd like to congratulate Conservation Ontario's newly elected chair, Mayor of Uxbridge, Dave Barton, and Vice Chair Ed McGugan and Pat Warren. We look forward to working alongside you to promote watershed conservation across Ontario. In March and April, the NPCA hosted Niagara Envirothon, a program led by Forests Ontario that challenges high school students in areas like forestry, wildlife, aquatics, and soils. The event included a learning day at Balls Falls and a field competition day a few weeks later. Congratulations to St. Michael Catholic School. this year's winning team. We wish them the best at the provincial competition. The past week, we celebrated Earth Day with NPCA staff attending a number of local events, joining partners and community groups in honoring our planet. We are proud to support and participate in events that highlight the importance of environmental stewardship year-round. Starting today, the City Nature Challenge is on. We congratulate and support the cities of Welland and St. Catharines and the town of Fort Erie for taking part in this global biodiversity initiative. If you want to help, just join our city's project on our naturalist. Head outdoors and snap photos of plants, animals, fungi, and insects. Many have heard that hemlock woolly algae is detected at St. John's Conservation Area. HWA is a significant forest pest. We've seen this in other locations in the past and continue to work closely with our partners like Invasive Species Center to monitor and manage the threat. Helpful information, including a downloadable FAQ, can be found on our website and social media to help residents learn more about help and prevent the spread. This past Wednesday was Administrative Professionals Day, and I want to take a moment to thank our dedicated administrative staff across the NPCA, from supporting board and committee logistics to keeping our internal operations running smoothly. Their work is essential and deeply appreciated. Thank you to all that do this work. I will now yield the floor to CAO Lee Yates to provide an update.
Thank you, Chair Metcalf. Well, fishing season's kicked off, and tomorrow it's kicking off at the St. John's Pond. While we're not holding an official event this year, the pond will be open for fishing and ready to welcome anglers. Staff will be on site for parking and logistics, and also a reminder to follow all Ontario fishing rules and regulations while enjoying this popular spring tradition with us. We recently shared progress on the Lakewood Conservation Area Restoration Project, a critically important initiative and multi-year project aimed at restoring Great Lakes coastal habitats and increasing biodiversity at the site. Year one's achieved major milestones thanks to the support of incredible funding partners, and we look forward to sharing more in the coming months as the project continues. From conservation planning to public education, restoration, community engagement, the past month has been full of momentum. Thank you to all NPCA staff, volunteers, partners, and board members for your continued commitment to protecting natural heritage in the Niagara Peninsula watershed. And at this time, Chair, I'd like to invite Member Cridlin to provide a brief update from the Foundation.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just some brief updates. This is a call out to the grade 12s in the community, grade 12 students. There's still time to apply for the Conservation Education Bursary through the Foundation, and this program supports our next generation of conservation leaders. We all experienced Earth Day this past week, and we have a small new online campaign that we're piloting called 25 for 25, so we can all still make a small impact through that campaign if you didn't get out and have a chance to plant a tree. Both of those, again, are available on our npcf.ca website. Also, our foundation chair, Barbara Greenwood, will be bringing a report to the board next meeting to share some more highlights of what we've been up to. So thank you again, Chair.
Thanks, Member Cridlin, for that update. There is no correspondence. Presentations. We have two presentations before us this morning, starting with the Audit Financial Statement and Audit Findings Report for 2024 fiscal year. I will turn it over to David Marks and Aidan Crow from KPMG.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's just myself today. We've left Aidan back at the office. So I will take you through a little bit of the audit findings report and then the financial statements. I will try to see if I can move this down to maybe the next, no, I'm not sure how to move it to where we need it to go. So I think maybe go to the status page, which I believe might be page 4 or 5. Next one. One after, sorry. Perfect. That's great. So we'll start here. As of today, we're in the position to issue our audit opinion on the financial statements of the Conservation Authority. We have had a presentation that we made to the Audit Committee, which was a week or two ago, can't remember the exact date, but we were able to go over this report in detail with that committee. And today I'll just provide an overall summary of where we are. So upon approval of the Board of Directors today of the audited financial statements, we'll be able to issue our audit opinion. That is a clean or unqualified audit opinion, which means that the financial statements are fairly representative of the transactions of the organization in accordance with the accounting framework that is chosen, which is public sector accounting standards. Okay, so we've maintained our independence from management through the course of our audit, and will continue to maintain our independence. We had full cooperation from management as we conducted our audit. The books and records are in good shape and required little adjustment from us, which we like to see as we conduct our audit. Okay. I'd also just like to say that we don't have any corrected or uncorrected audit differences that are associated with that, which do reflect the good work that management do on the financial statements. Happy to say that we're also conducted all our procedures that we needed to during the course of our plan, and again, nothing came up that warrants any further discussion at this point in time. Okay. With that, if we could move over to the financial statements, and I will talk about the financial statements. So these are the financial statements. We're starting with the audit opinion of the financial statements. If we scroll down slightly here, that's great. You can see that it is a clean or unqualified opinion. Again, meaning that the financial statements are appropriately presented in accordance with the accounting framework. As we scroll down into the next section, you can see that there's the responsibility of those charged with governance and management. You, as the board of directors and management, are responsible for the financial statements and the presentation thereof. As we keep on moving down, there is a section about the auditor's responsibility. We are responsibility for conducting our audit, providing risk assessment, administering tests on the financial statements, and having these communications with you, those charged with governance on the financial statement. If we move down to the statement of financial position, which is the balance sheet, a couple pages down, please. Yep, that's perfect there. Thank you. This is the statement of financial position, which contains all the assets and liabilities of the Conservation Authority. You can see, looking at the financial assets compared to the financial liabilities, the first two subtotals there, you can see that the total assets are greater than the liabilities, meaning that the organization has sufficient funds in order to make the current obligations. So the organization is in strong financial position. Down at the bottom section of the page, you can see tangible capital assets. Those are assets that are held by the organization, land, building, etc., that have significant value on the financial statements, and those are recorded at a cost basis rather than a fair value basis. So As we move down to the next page, please, which is the statement of operations and accumulated surplus. This shows all the revenues and expenses of the organization. Total revenues in the current year were $19.3 million. You can see that in the middle of the page, and that's from various funding through municipal levies, other user fees, government funding as well. An increase of $3.3 million, in the current year. A lot of that was different grants that were received by the organization. Okay. As you move down to the expenses, you can see that, up one page there. At the bottom half of the page, you can see the expenses of the organization of 15.9, almost 16 million there, leaving an annual surplus of $3.3 million, for the year. I'm sure management can help provide any details that you need on some of the fluctuations in those as we go forward. Move down 2 pages to the statement of cash flow. Perfect, that's it. So this shows the cash ins and outs for the organization, starting off with the net income and the annual surplus that was there, that $3.3 million. You can see some changes through operating activities. And then the big change that you have here is the capital activity. So during the course of the year, the organization spent $7.1 million on the purchase of capital tangible assets, $7.2 million on purchase of the capital assets. Some of that was funded through net investing activities, as well as a little bit of financing that came through. A lot of that also was funded through either reserves or operating funding that was received during the course of the year. So at the end of the year, the organization is still in a strong cash position of $1.4 million. Okay. The rest of the financial statements and notes and accounting policies have remained consistent with the previous year. Obviously, the notes are updated for current information, but nothing new to bring to your attention that warrants further discussion. So with that, happy to answer any questions that you have on our audit, or if I can assist you with anything in the financial statements as well.
Great, thank you, David. Insightful presentation. Are there any questions for David at this time? I can't see anybody on the screen. So seeing none, are there any questions? Again, no? Okay, well, again, thank you, David. And I'll look for a mover and seconder on a motion to receive the presentation. The presentation regarding the conservation areas. Oh, hang on, where am I here? Oh, up here. So we have 2 audited financial statements and findings and report 2024 fiscal year. So I'll look for a mover and seconder to get that on the floor. Moved by Member Foster, second by Member Grant. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, David. So we have a presentation on that?
No, it's just a report that goes along with the presentation.
Okay. So I'll turn to the corresponding staff report, FA 1425. Are there any questions for staff regarding this report? Oh, Member Foster?
I have to steal the vice chair's microphone. So this is laid out very clearly what's gone on, and in fact we talked about this at the Finance Committee as well. The Finance Committee went through and reviewed and approved as it was going on. I'm just wondering, and perhaps through to our treasurer, the quote-unquote surplus that's coming out of the end of it, what are the thoughts? How are we going to handle that? How is that going to be presented? back in and through, and where we're going with that.
Thank you. Through the chair, I will defer to Lise Gagnon, Director of Corporate Services, who can provide more detail on what that surplus represents and how it will be presented.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Metcalf. So the Statement of Operations and Accumulated Surplus returns a value of $3.3 million in terms of surplus. That is essentially a presentation issue, and the biggest portion of this is that all of the revenues to remain in accordance with accounting protocols, all of the revenues are reported in any given year. However, a portion of those revenues is intended to support capital, and capital is not reported in an operating statement. So consequently, the $3.325 million of that, the lion's share of that is capital, and it is reported elsewhere. So effectively, the operating position is reported to this board in a different report today. The number escapes me at the moment. Now, this inconsistency in the fact that the capital cannot be included in an operating statement has caused some confusion in the past, particularly with some of our external stakeholders, so that I've proposing a different presentation and a separate internal statement that will explain that difference when we are addressing Niagara Council, for example, and that type of thing, so that we can make sure that the numbers are understood appropriately.
Yeah, thank you, and that's really important. That last section that you laid out there, the reality is that budget is going to be nasty this year at the region. You guys are already starting to hear that coming back in and through, and it would be unfortunate if all of us that are on this board understands where that's coming from. You've explained it very well, but we got to make sure that the ones that are going to really be asking the questions at the region are very much understanding what that number really represents. If we don't, it will be, as I said, maybe a little unpleasant experience going through the budget process. So.
If I may, through you, Chair Metcalf. So on May the 20th, Leilani and I will be attending Niagara Region Council for the Finance and Audit Committee, where our financial statements will be presented to Niagara Region Council, and with the idea that we will do exactly that, is be present to address any concerns that that might be raised when the surplus is viewed at that level. There were questions last year for the $2.2 million, so I want to make sure that we're ahead of it.
That's great, and I, as I said also on that audit committee as well, I'm looking forward to how we present that, so thank you.
Thanks, Member Foster. Are there any more questions regarding report FA 14, 2025? Sorry. Yep. Can I get a mover and seconder for the present recommendation presented, that report FA 1425 2024 audited financial statements and audited findings be received? We got out of sync there, did we not? Or no, is that? Okay. And that 2024 audited financial statement and 2024 audited findings report attached hereto as appendices 1 and 2 respectively be approved. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Member Whitavine, seconded by Member Seaborn. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. So up next, we have the decarbonization roadmap for NPCA climate change commitments. I will invite Andreas Mertes from Enviro Stewards to begin.
Director Green will provide a little.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Green. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Is this working? Yes, okay. Thank you. Through you, Chair. And before Andreas Meritis, who's joining us online today, begins his presentation, I just wanted to provide a little bit of commentary. I'm really pleased today to be able to share a progress update on the decarbonization roadmap project that was initiated last summer and was noted to the Board of Directors in a July 2024 board report. As you know, following a declaration of a climate change emergency in 2019, climate change was identified as a critical priority under the NPCA strategic plan and is a key component of several of our documents and guiding strategies, including the watershed-based natural resource management strategy and conservation areas strategy. You may recall in December 2022, the board approved a climate change action plan framework which outlines preliminary objectives, goals, and actions for implementation. The project you will be hearing about today was a key first step in the finalization and completion of that climate change action plan. We needed this information to be able to set our targets, determine our baseline greenhouse gas emissions, and determine a pathway forward to be able to change our operational actions and meet those climate change commitments as well as the set emissions targets. So last summer, we retained the services of Enviro Stewards, who are leaders in this field, and they were to undertake the project of developing a decarbonization roadmap for us, including a very comprehensive assessment of our greenhouse gas emissions from 6 of our key properties, as well as our fleet and energy and fuel usage across the NPCA. Before I turn it over to Andreas to walk us through the results of that assessment and the proposed pathway for staff consideration, I did want to take a moment to acknowledge Manager Eric Gervais, who was a co-lead on this project, as well as many staff across different divisions, including our Conservation Areas Division and our Corporate Services Division. It was truly a team effort, and we're really proud of the outcome so far and excited to share this information with you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andreas to walk us through the results. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thanks. I believe Melanie will share the slides. So I'll start maybe thanking Natalie for the introduction and thanking the NPCA and the board for the invitation to join this meeting and to present a high-level summary of the collaboration of Enviro Stewards with the NPCA team. Next slide, please. I'll talk about the scope of this project, the journey NPCA is on with regards to greenhouse gas emissions, as well as the baseline inventory of the emissions in 2023 and opportunities to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Part of this project and the scope so far has been considering 6 of the facilities of NPCA, which are the main office, Balls Falls, Binbrook, Gainsborough, Chippewa Creek, Long Beach, and we considered energy, water, waste. Throughout, we also engaged with staff, and Natalie just alluded to it. We collaborated with the team and had a great support. We also had a workshop training on talking about greenhouse gas emissions, of tracking and monitoring it, and what can be done to reduce those emissions. Part of this, we also developed a baseline of the emissions and opportunities to reduce the emissions. Part of that is in our scope 1 to 3 emissions. Scope 1 emissions are direct emissions that are produced on-site, such as burning fossil fuels such as natural gas or propane. Scope 2 are indirect emissions produced off-site. You control the consumption of it on the site, but the production of it, such as electricity, is controlled off-site. In this case, it would be the grid of Ontario. And Scope 3 indirect emissions, due to upstream and downstream activities, we considered water waste as an example. And then based on that, we identified measures to reduce the emissions and flag things for the staff to track in the future and how to report on those emissions. Next slide, please. So the journey NPCA is on. You're right now at A, which is knowing where you are standing right now with regards to greenhouse gas emissions. Based on that information, then you can set and confirm and decide on a target and a pathway of how to achieve that. This work was kind of helping you to understand where you're at. So you established a starting point, and I'm flagging already ideas of how you can implement certain quick wins and deep retrofits to reduce your emissions. And I will speak about that later, but it's a journey. This is an early step, and there will be more work ahead of for NPCA. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the baseline, what we consider then are resources which have corresponding greenhouse gas emissions, such as electricity, propane, natural gas, water. Go back one slide, please. Thank you. And these were site-specific. We also looked at the fleet and the dyed diesel, which is used for the land care equipment, which are corporate. These numbers are the total for 2023, which is the amount of consumption as well as costs. The costs would be adjusted as an average for the utilities, which is important to when you look ahead of what the impacts are if you reduce those or fuel switch, what the impacts would be to operational spending. Again, important to note, these are site specifics for the consumption. Besides fleet and dyed diesel, which is corporate, that's all fleet is considered and all land care equipment. Next slide, please. Then we used these consumption after gathering the data information with the help of the NPCA team, which was available and some was flagged for collecting additionally, applied emission factors to convert those into emissions. For 2023, the total was about 270 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. And you see there is different sources have different corresponding emissions. Big one is the fleet, and then followed by other fossil fuel consumption. Water, I might just want to note, we have considered well water, which has an impact on the water and the resources. And I think to the previous conversations, the impacts on emissions are low. However, the hauled water, which a lot of sites receive, has an impact just by trucking the water to the sites. So we had to make some estimates and flag some things to further in the future to refine those numbers. Next slide, please. It's important to also notice the difference between the costs and emissions. On the left are the operational costs, and on the right are the emissions. For example, electricity is roughly half of the spending operationally. However, they only contribute about an eighth of the emission, and propane would be about 6% of the spending. However, triple the impacts and the contributions to emissions. And that's important to keep in mind that there's a difference. Next slide, please. So we spent time collecting information, went to site, had some own metering equipment for looking opportunities of where you're at and what you can do about that. And first step would be conservations, the low-hanging fruit, things you can reduce, such as switching, lights that are not LED yet to LED, of turning things off when they are not needed. And then also looking at fuel switching for those fossil fuel consumptions, like how you can reduce your emissions. The total, again, in 2023 was roughly 270 tons, and the spending would have been around 360,000. And then with the opportunities that we looked, there was a whole bunch, 14 were identified. That's will be part of the report. The summary of it is you can reduce your emissions by conservation as well as fuel switching. The vast majority in your case would be by fuel switching. So 1% of the savings of GHG would be kind of correlated to conservation, and the rest 77% would be due to the fuel switching. And again, operational cost savings based on current numbers would be for 211 tons savings around 77,000. And that's again only operational costs. Next slide, please. So we use that as an example of the pathway. Now, if you know where you are, we use an example of a 75% GHG emission reduction based on the year 2023 to be achieved in 2050, kind of in agreement with the international community. And then for this example that we had proposed is those measures in the right order, where you conserve first and then do that in the order. And I think there was identified from the first 3 years where you can do certain activities with some challenges. I mentioned like first conservation. Given the parks are highly driven electricity consumption by the visitors, it's important to include them. It was flagged and monitoring confirmed that the consumption is obviously correlating with the visitors' numbers. And some of that, for example, would be during the weeks in the summer when no one is on site, things will be left on. That would be a great opportunity to, with the collaboration of the people, to reduce the consumption as well as emissions. And then the big contributors to emissions would be the fuel switch, where we considered different scenarios for the fleet. We looked at electrifying the fleet. We looked at switching to biodiesel, bioethanol. In this example, the bigger impact on emissions would be electrifying it. So we considered in this scenario from 2030 to 2034, and the corresponding number with it on the slide would be the potential for reduction in emissions. The same with the land care equipment, if we were to electrify that between the years 2030 and 39. Propane is used for space heating as well as heating water. We looked at different scenarios there as well. For the space, we had the biggest impact on emissions if we would switch to heat pumps. And then for the water, we look at solar thermal with backup system, either the propane that is existing already currently used or electrifying it. Bigger impact on emissions again would be of electrifying the backup as well. So if there's peak demands for hot water on the sites or overnight, where that solar thermal might not be able to supply, the storage might not be worth to have a big tank, you would have a backup system. And then the main office was a challenge by itself because the NPCA just had moved in recently. There was not a full winter of data available, but we know there's rooftop units that use natural gas for heating. We considered in the future to electrify that as well with the efficient heat pumps that you can save a lot, again, based on the numbers that were available. Next slide, please. And this is kind of the summary of that pathway. 2023 would be your starting point. 2050 would be your target. In this case, 75% emissions reductions. The dashed lines represent a linear path of achieving this target. And the colored bars are what I just mentioned for the different categories: fleet, electrifying the fleet, electrifying the propane, electrifying the land care equipment, switching to heat pumps for the main office. And water, again, impacts only would be right now, the whole border hasn't been touched. We left that the same. But this would be kind of corresponding to the numbers I presented at the different years. If you were to do that, that's how you would achieve that target. And you might notice, for example, the electricity consumption would be actually increased because of electrifying those activities. You actually would need more electricity. However, the impacts on emissions are still a reduction because, fortunately, in the situation in Ontario, the fossil fuel contributions of supplying electricity is rather low. So you would have, you can get the same for lower emissions. And this is kind of the summary, and I want to maybe open up for questions.
Great, thank you, Andreas. That covered a lot of information, as Director Green said, that covered a lot of areas and a lot of different divisions. So I have a question on the floor from Vice Chair Beatty.
Yes. Once we achieve this, has anyone estimated the cost savings?
Yes. So for operational cost saving was in that table. Not sure if we can share the slides again. It was roughly the $77,000 per year. Again, that's based on current numbers. And then further down the road, you might know, like escalating carbon costs. Not to get political, there is some impacts that could be considered. In this case, it was not. It was just, so if you go up again, there's that summary table for all those measures. If you go up again, there it is. So in this case, we would have achieved a 78%, exceeding the 75% target. And the operational cost savings would be the 76,865. Again, that's based on the numbers available in current costs. And that's not considering capital costs. That's just operational costs.
Member Foster, you have a question?
Can we put the presentation back up again and go to the second last slide? No, one more back. That's the one. Okay, thank you. So on this, the one thing out of the whole presentation, and by the way, this is good. It's a big picture overview of you know, where we're going to go slash I guess goals, if you want to put it that way. But it's fascinated with under the electricity conservation, reduce campsite consumption during weekdays. I'm curious what that means. I can't possibly think of campers walking around and saying, turn all of your electricity off during the day type of thing. So I'm, I'm sort of curious as to what that really means.
Thank you for the question through you, Chair. I think it's a few things. Sorry, we have seasonal campers that a portion of them are not there throughout the week. Maybe implementing some things where those are air conditionings and things are turned down when they're not there. Is I think where the direction was going with this one.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. It would be for those sites during the week, an assumption that if quarter of it could be reduced, that would correlate it as showing as this has a big impact. Because yes, it was noted, and we have noticed it on site as well, that bridges are left on when no one is on site, air conditionings are on, and certain things might be harder to address because some might require, but others, I think there is an opportunity to reduce that.
So a follow-up to that then, the last time I was at Long Beach, we don't monitor on a by campsite basis the electricity uses, correct? So realistically, if we want to do something like this, we should start looking at piloting, you know, pay-per-use type of thing within these particular areas, because that's where you'll actually get people to do it. I mean, you know, walking around and saying, turn it off, they're not going to. So you know that. So the reality is that if we're going to look at it, we should maybe look at some other piloting things. Like I think it's a great aspiration, but if we're going to do it, we have to do it some way that's really going to make it work. Thanks.
No, absolutely. And I just want to note, in part of the report, we also listed sub-metering. There was lengthy discussion about the carrots and the sticks, which again, for the team is to consider. This is also just as a starting point, noting that in this specific case where you have visitors and you have campsites, the challenge is that they are the main consumers, right? So rightfully so, yeah. And so what we did too is we did sub-meter some of those sites. And there is some metering equipment become available, more affordable, where you can also know on a finer, detailed on the sites who uses electricity, and you could also then, it would be the stick, charge for it.
I believe Member Witteveen had a question.
There we go. Found one that worked. Well, through Chair to Andreas, thanks for the presentation, and always find kind of measuring these type of things interesting, because if we're kind of in our own business here, you know, what is the cost to achieve these type of results? And I know the conversions of vehicles and electrifying. So there might be a net savings, but what's the gross cost to achieve the net savings? And I think that also, you know, has to be viewed in whether those funds could be used to still achieve some of those results, but in different ways. So I understand this is a starting point, but I just wanted to share those thoughts as a business person that has to earn the funds the hard way. You know, we look at how we're going to spend them and achieve, you know, the best results. And I think conservation wants to be responsible in their funds, because you also say enviro stewards. So I think, you know, you want to be stewardly with funds as well as methods. So I'm more curious to you, Andreas, on, you know, as you come back, to give us a cost to achieve, because I think that's important to know where we are going to get our best value for return on investment. So I don't know whether you can answer that now, or I'll be patient and wait for something to come later. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my comments.
I might address that, and maybe Natalie wants to speak to that too. Like, absolutely. And for our common work, usually that's the same thing. Depending on the scope, if we work with others, where when we have those measures, we put a number to it as well, depending on the level. But because obviously there's costs involved, and then have paybacks, and that's present values, we can all provide that it was just outside of the scope for this project. So this is further down the road now, that depending on the team, what they decide internally too, like, what's the next steps, as in, like, the target you want to set, which measures to do. And this is looking forward, projecting to, if you want to achieve those targets or set targets, there's work ahead, there's a pathway, and time is of essence, but yes, more work involved. And then also for capital spending, planning is required. So you need that ahead of time, right? And the order, though, we always do in our work is the low-hanging fruit, the conservation first. There is savings you can materialize, and then, but also then there's deeper retrofits to be taken in any situation, and then go on that pathway. And our team itself, we presented yesterday for the whole team as well. We have gone through this whole pathway as well. So we do this for our work, but we do it ourselves too.
Director Green, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to add as well that the decarbonization pathway, or the roadmap that has been presented, is an example. And the next step for us is now to take this information, review it with staff internally, prioritize those actions, determine what is actually feasible, and start planning ahead. And that will feed into our climate action plan. And that's part of the reason why our climate action plan has not been finalized at this stage, because we were waiting for some more information to be able to set our targets and determine what is feasible. And for some of these actions, you're right, we may have to take a look at return on investment as well as external funding sources to help support that cost, to be able to balance our desire to achieve our climate change commitments as well as staying fiscally responsible.
Thank you. All right, so the motion that the presentation regarding the decarbonization roadmap for the NPCA climate change commitments be received. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Moved by Vice Chair Beatty, second by Member Cridland. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Another one.
It's the staff report that goes with the presentation.
All right. So now we'll receive the staff report that coincides with the presentation. Director Green and Manager Gervais are available to take questions about the contents of this report. So the motion that report FA 2025 Progress Update Decarbonization Roadmap Project for NPCA Climate Change Commitments be received. Can I have a mover and seconder? Moved by Member Foster, second by Member Whitavine. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So we have a delegation before us today regarding the drainage improvement project in the township of Wainfleet. I'd like to welcome Drainage Superintendent Mark Jemison and invite him to the podium to speak on this item.
Great, thank you, through you, Chair. So would I be able to get it in PowerPoint or PDF, whatever's easier? Let's see. Oh, great, okay, excellent. Thank you for having me. So here to discuss the Big Forks Municipal Drain Improvement Project. Just a bit of an overview, so I'll do some introductions and municipal drain background, discussion about Big Forks Drain and how we got to this project, and then kind of the ask. So we're looking to create a steering committee for the drainage improvement project, so that's why we're here today, really. So throughout the presentation, most of the pictures are of the Big Forks drain itself, just to provide a bit of context. So we'll get started. So I'm Mark Jemison. I'm the drainage superintendent with the township. I look after the municipal drain system. I've been with the township since 2018, and then before that, quite a few other municipalities in engineering and public works. I also have Len Arts, who's the chair of our drainage advisory committee, so thanks for coming to support the project. So municipal drains, not everyone might be familiar with them, but they're typically an open ditch system. They can also be subsurface agricultural tile. They predominantly exist in rural and agricultural areas, and they provide drainage relief for all types of properties: agricultural, residential, institutional, all of the above. So the three main components are that they're community-based projects. They occur on private property. This is a user-pay system, and it's above and beyond the traditional tax base. So it takes a lot of buy-in from property owners because it's not only using their land, but it gives them a benefit and there's a cost. So the Drainage Act gives us a lot of public consultation to deal with those community projects. Once you get kind of later in the project, they have a legal existence. A municipal bylaw is passed to ratify that. And then once they have that existence, it becomes part of the municipal infrastructure system. So the Drainage Act is the piece of legislation that governs. The Ministry of Agriculture provides oversight, and it gives the municipalities the tools and resources to have meetings and do work on municipal drains. So to kind of simplify the context, Big Forks is a giant municipal drain. Just to explain a bit more on a smaller scale, this is a 1,000-acre project. So an engineer is appointed by council, an outside engineer, not a municipal staff member, and they determine the drainage area. They look at the needs of the drainage area, identify different soil types, land uses, roads, different things like that, and they develop an assessment on everyone that's flowing into that area. The drain is then designed. We get the blueprints, engineering schematics, shows the different culverts, pipe types, pipe materials, grades, benchmarks. It allows you to do the physical construction and future maintenance. So then we get back to the community kind of piece of it. So it's a user pay system. Everybody is going to pay. The engineer develops an assessment schedule, and then the Drainage Act gives us the tools to discuss that assessment schedule. There's appeal processes, but basically everything that happens is billable back to the property owners. So it's the accountability, it has to be very high to make sure that everything that we're doing is moving forward in progress to get the projects complete. The other big piece in modern municipal drains, the Drainage Act has been around for a couple hundred years. We manage drains based on the engineering report, so some of them are 50 years old, 100 years old, but modern reports have environmental management pieces built in. Open ditch water courses, and so there's quite a few regulations in place that we have to work with to do maintenance on those. So modern reports include these pieces. So specifically in Wainfleet, we're a flat agricultural area. The blue on the map shows the different municipal drains. We have about 250 kilometers of municipal drain, open ditch, and they all kind of flow together. They're built to provide relief for each other. The main drain that we're going to talk about today is Big Forks drain, which is in the middle, provides outlet to a lot of different municipal drains. Not many of our drains go out to the lake. They actually all flow into Big Forks and out to the Welland River. So because they're so interconnected, it's really important that they get maintained. So getting into maintenance is the municipalities are obligated to do that work. The Drainage Act requires that we keep them in a good state of repair. And Wainfleet is unique in that circumstance that since the 1970s, we've employed our own drainage excavator and operator in-house to do that work, which gives us kind of a higher level of service and better control over those environmental regulations. And that's something we're pretty proud of. So getting into Big Forks drain itself, it's a bit of a rough image, but the blue line through the middle there is the existing Big Forks municipal drain. It's 12 kilometers long and takes in 16,000 acres of water. The drain itself was updated by engineering reports in 1950 and 1984, and that's what we're in the process of doing again today. So existing municipal drains need updating every once in a while. So as 26 drains flow into the Big Forks itself, and then we get to kind of the star on the map, and that's where it becomes a natural water course. And that's the Big Forks Creek. Conservation Authority recently completed a floodplain mapping study on that, which we participated in, and it was a great, the public outreach on that was something we looked to emulate. But through that, we've gained a lot of data as well. And so that green section provides outlet for another 60 municipal drains as it makes its way out to the Welland River. So the total watershed of this system is 42,000 acres. It's thousands of homes, agricultural, institutional, residential, commercial. Water comes from Haldeman County. It takes a long time for the water to get to the outlet, but the whole system has to be maintained to facilitate that. So in 2017 and 18, the township initiated maintenance work on the municipal drain, doing mowing and brushing to get access. Using that 1984 report, we applied for permits with the different regulatory agencies, and we kind of hit a roadblock. The 1984 report didn't allow us to have those environmental protections in place, and the permits we received weren't satisfactory. We wouldn't be able to accomplish much for the dollar values we had to put in. So since 2017 and 18, we've been doing a lot of monitoring and determining our next steps. So we retained a drone survey, and we did that for the entire water course and municipal drain. We identified thousands of obstructions, trees, beaver dams, debris, holding back and inhibiting flow. We also completed a LiDAR survey on the municipal drain, so that was just for the surface data, and that identified the many, many obstructions in the water that they were holding back as well. And this started to build into our model that we've now developed with the engineer that we're working with. And then finally, we've done quite a bit of survey work. So starting at the top of the drain, it's 3 meters wide, but it gets in this area. This is at Priestman Road, excuse me. It's a 12-meter cross, and we really are only getting 1 to 2, 3 meters of width of available space for water to flow through the drain. We've had extreme sedimentation since it's been last maintained in the 1980s, and it's essentially become a 2-stage channel throughout the process. These photos are taken in August at a period of low flow, but it really shows how much sedimentation has taken place in this drain. And then this is just looking the opposite direction downstream. So the project that we're working on now is the Big Forks Improvement Project. So Section 78 of the Drainage Act allows us to update and improve an existing municipal drain. So in 2024, Township Council appointed R.J. Burnside Associates to undertake an improvement project. R.J. Burnside is a provincial leader in municipal drain projects. They do work across the province. They've done a couple with us in the township, and we've been very satisfied with the work they do. They also have extensive biological and ecological staff on hand that are going to assist with this project. So the main thing is that we need to be able to do this physical construction work in regulated areas. So the project goals are that we're updating the engineering report to better manage those modern environmental regulations. We really would like to update the report to facilitate a more regular maintenance schedule. Doing it once every 30, 40, 50 years is unacceptable. It ends up causing more damage, and we need to be able to stay on top of keeping it in a better state of repair. And then we're also looking to extend the municipal drain further into the natural water course to extend and protect the municipal drains that rely on it for outlet. So the Drainage Act gives us a lot of steps and checks and balances throughout this procedure. We have a lot of public consultation that's built into this, but with a watershed of 50,000 acres, we're inviting thousands of people to meetings. We need to be able to have a strategic plan and have people coming to the table that can help with the solutions. And so we've developed the steering committee for this project in partnership with the engineering firm. And our objective is to help shape the design of the project and make sure that we have open communication throughout it. So typically on like the project I showed earlier, the engineer would design the system, and then we would go out for consultation with the DFO and NPCA. When we're doing a project of this scale, we need to have those conversations early and often and be able to make decisions ahead of time. So it's going to be the largest municipal drain project in the province's history. We have a lot of opportunities to set the benchmark and do a lot of offsetting and green infrastructure projects. And by having the steering committee, I'm hoping that we're able to really facilitate those options early on. So we filled most of the membership already, and we met with NPCA staff last week or the week before, so we're looking forward to it. But we just wanted to present this to the Conservation Authority Board that this is going to be one of the largest undertakings in the region for quite some time, and we're very excited and just want to bring it to the forefront. So I'm available for any questions, but yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, the municipal drains are becoming a hot topic for sure. I know in Haldeman that the MTO has petitioned to start one, and it's raised quite a, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We do have some questions on the floor, so Member Foster.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the presentation. I always joke my wife is related to half the people in Waynfleet, so I'm down there a fair bit, and I know what you mean by the topography and stuff like that what you deal with. I'm curious. Is there a lot of flooding problems within Waynfleet?
Through you, Chair. So, not in a residential sense. We do have overland flooding in the significant storm events on agricultural land. So there's lots of bank overtopping and things like that. But in my time with the municipality, we don't have what you would call like basement flooding, homes flooding because of those. But we also do have, 11 meter, 15 meter setbacks from those structures. But there is crop damage every year due to the flooding.
Okay, thank you. We've been doing some work in Lincoln, on the west side of Beamsville. We had a major project went on there, and it changed the way that that particular creek was going down and then through to become much more meandering and stuff like that. So, as you take a look and as you move forward with this, like is the goal to, again, make use of the drains to slow the water down within it, or is it trying to move things through? I'm no expert on hydraulics whatsoever, so I'm just curious as to what the final goal is out of this.
Sure, through you, Chair. So the main goal for this project is to reestablish the existing municipal drain. So there's a dug portion, so that was up to where the star was. So we have 12 kilometers of dug municipal drain. So it's been dug out before, so we're looking to bring that back to design grade from what we had in the 80s. Moving downstream into the natural water course, we're not looking to continue digging the bottom. We mainly just want to be able to get in and get access to remove blockages. It's existed as a natural water course for eternity and it functions, but we need to be able to go in there and remove the thousands of dead ash and the occasional beaver to be able to make that happen. When I mentioned the green infrastructure and offsetting, there will be a lot of built-in pieces for this drain to slow water down and to capture sediment above and beyond the normal drain design. I would say the normal drain design is to get water away as quickly as possible for a certain design level storm. But due to the scale of this project, we will be looking at offline ponds, refugio pools, and things like that are going to slow the water down and serve other functions other than just drainage.
Okay, thank you. So just one last question. When I first got involved with the town years ago, when I first got elected, we had a big drain problem in the one area of town, and I know there's two ways of approaching these things. One is to do where it is that you're going, which is charging the individuals along with this. There's the other of taking it over and basically saying this is a township responsibility type of thing. So, and I understand why you're doing what you're doing. I think it makes sense. But are you getting any pushback at all from those that are going to be affected? You have pretty significant costs that are going to come into play, and people are what they are. They don't like significant costs that are coming at them. So I'm just curious as to where that's at. And I know Mayor Grant is on too. So.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So for the cost aspect, there are other places where they do the stormwater levy and things like that. The municipal drain process in Waynfleet is just so intrinsic that's the path we have to carry forward with. I think on every project there are people that have higher concerns with the costs, and the Drainage Act, there are several stages of appeal that you're able to go through and discuss those costs and how they were developed and why they may not be fair. Every year that we send out bills on municipal drain projects, I get complaints, and I think that's completely fair. We're sending someone a bill for work that's completed on their property. The Drainage Act gives us the tools to be able to handle those kinds of interactions, and that's why we're seeking to do so many the public outreach and the steering committee to help mitigate those concerns. Right now, we don't have costs on this project, but in my experience, you usually get a few complaints. But the main players, our agricultural owners, are usually very receptive because they know that without these drainage systems, we wouldn't be able to function in the way that we do.
Are there any more questions for Mark? Member Witteveen.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Mark, for the presentation. Just a quick comment. Part of the Niagara Federation of Agriculture, and we would probably be of interest to have a presentation as well. Our members are also in the township of Wainfleet, and so kudos for taking on such a large project. Understand the importance of having good drainage. It's where we have lots of conflict, and so and I know with some of our environmental issues of the dead ash and trees in the watercourse, you know, it does pose challenges to have it function properly. So to me is, I guess my question through you, Mr. Chair, to Mark is, what is the time period on the construction of this, Mark?
Through you, Chair. So, typically under the Drainage Act, these reports.
Oh.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So, under the Drainage Act, these reports should be filed in 1 year. That's usually unrealistic on a small-scale project. I'm calling this a 5-year project. I would anticipate construction by 2030, but I think that's a pretty lofty goal as well.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up on that is there any new methods, designs as moving forward, any examples within the province taking on such a large project to, I guess, I just look at it's been 30, 40 years, you know, ideas change and advance. So are those new ideas going to be incorporated? I know that you mentioned, Member Foster there, about slowing the flow versus, like, you know, focusing on getting rid of the water as quick as possible and looking at, you know, just you know, different methods than in the past. So that would be my question, is if you can incorporate some of those new forward thinking and ways to make it a better project.
Yeah, definitely. Through you, Chair. So going with RJ Burnside, who are one of the top in this field, that's something that we have included in our scoping, is that in order to do the work in these regulated areas, we're going to have to really be on the forefront of what we can for technology and mitigation-wise. So that's something that we are pursuing.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, that's all I had. Thank you.
Member Beatty has a question.
Yes, just curiosity. Did you say that the drain presently drains into the Welland River? Yes. So that huge drain ends up in the Welland River. So when you rebuild this all and get the flow happening at a higher rate, has anybody calculated the effect that will have on the Welland River? Because the Welland River is a tricky body of water.
Yes. Through you, Chair. So the engineer on record, so part of their responsibility is to ensure that the water gets to a legal outlet. So that will include doing capacity testing on the Welland River. We are aware of the challenges associated with the Welland River. For this drain specifically, the concerns are a little less because we have a few railway structures and big structures before the Welland River that will limit our ability to go any deeper. So the flows, it'll be the same amount of water, just in a different time period, essentially.
That's the thing. The time period of a significant flow, the time period may be shorter, because if you do the job, you're going to get it away from Wainfleet, and it's going to end up in the Welland River faster. That, I think, might be a concern for the municipalities living on the Welland River. If you change the flow of the, because you said there's challenges with the reversing and everything else that goes with the Welland River, and I don't think that's going to change. So you recognize there could be an impact.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Are there any more questions for Mark? Seeing none, I certainly don't envy you, as one of the many hats I wear in Haldeman is sitting on the Court of Revision. And that is, of course, one of the appeal processes, is that where you go first with the municipality. And when you say the Drainage Act is 150, 200 years old, maybe it's time that the province revisit it, and just with what's going on in Haldeman right now as well. So thanks again, Mark, and good luck with your project. So at this time, I'll look for a mover and seconder for the following motion: that the drainage improvement project under Section 78 of the Drainage Act on Big Forks Municipal Drain in the Township of Wainfleet delegation be received. So we got a mover and seconder. Moved by, do you have a question? Before we do, oh, I'm sorry. So moved by Member Grant, seconded by Member Cridland. And just going to have a discussion here. Member Cridland?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I might have missed it, but I think there was a request for us to participate in a steering committee at the NPCA staff level, and I'm not sure if that is something that is covered later in another report or was for this presentation. So it's just a comment, Chair, at this point, if we've missed that.
Thank you, through the chair. Director David Deluce, Planning and Development, has already engaged discussions with Wainfleet staff to identify our representatives on that committee.
Okay, so we have a mover and seconder for receiving the information. So all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Sorry about that. We have two consent items before us today. Can I get a mover and seconder on the motion to receive these two reports, that the following items be received? Report FA 1325, Human Resources Annual Report, and Report FA 1825, Compliance and Enforcement Quarter 1 Statistics 2025. Got a mover and seconder to get that on the floor. Moved by Member Cridland, second by Member Seaborn. All in favor? Good. Now that the motion is on the floor, are there any questions on staff on the reports before us today? Seeing none, just all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So I have discussion items. 9.2, Report FA 1725, Financial Report Quarter 4 2024. I'll invite Director Gagnon to provide an overview of the Q4 financials. Thanks, Lise.
Yes, good morning. So this FC02, oh, not FC, it's FA. So this is the final report for 2024, and it regularly comes to the board. So this is what you normally see, as opposed to the statement of operations and fund balances that you see in the financial statements. So this outlines the operating position first, followed by the capital position and their related revenues. So overall, from an operating standpoint, which is Appendix 1, revenues are up by 2.78%, so $369,000. And expenses are up as well by 7.9%, or $1 million. So the revenues are overperforming across all line items. The other revenue shortfall is the result of budgeted reserve contributions related to the compensation review project. Accounting protocols dictate that the delay in reserve support entries, so it artificially returns a negative variance, but that's certainly not the case. There was board approval for reserve support for the compensation review project, so all is expected and within budgeted amounts. So grant funding activity is reflecting a dramatic increase in 2024. Operating was $1.46 million. Capital grants were $3.41 million. So that represents an 89% increase over 2023 and a 903% increase since 2024. Expenses, so a highlight of the major variances: salaries and benefits, that's the implementation of the compensation review project with reserve support, as I mentioned, along with incremental fully funded staff supported by revenue offsets. Professional fees, lower consulting fees across several departments. Occupancy cost, relocation of head office, largely offset by corresponding revenues. IT, GIS, and licenses, increase in managed services agreement, improved internet and license fees for new programs. Other operating expenses is the interest expense offset by special levy revenue. Materials and supplies offset by fully funded revenues, and special events was the 50th anniversary festival. From a capital standpoint, on Appendix 2, 2024 budget was $2,305,000. Budget carried forward from prior years for multi-year projects was $1.22 million. The grant funding for capital was $3.4. So our total capital envelope for 2024 was $6.935 million. Our capital spend at the end of December was $6.7, which leaves $191,603 gone back to the reserve, and that represents a completion rate of 97.24%, which is stellar. Happy to answer any questions on this report. Oh.
Thanks, Lise. Questions? We'll go with Member Cridlin first.
Maybe I should let Member Foster, he's probably going to ask the same question. No, again, great results. And just to highlight, thank you for everybody. And the to execute on that kind of a capital envelope is just astounding. So that's the planning and the HR and all the work that has to happen to make that happen is not really captured other than, people performing above what they're normally performing at. So thank you for that. So when we're spending, these kinds of dollars, though, people do tend to look at expenses going up. So, I just really want to highlight that the grant element of this is just dramatic and that we're set up to do probably more in the next year. So really just a thank you more than a question, but, I know people tend to watch the expense side only. So the presentation of those grants is really, really important. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Cridlin. Member Foster.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to take a little different tack. She talks expenses, I talk revenues. So you were mentioning, and it's seen within this, that we had a pretty substantial increase in overall revenues for a variety of reasons. An awful lot of that was the good work being done by staff, as was mentioned, to go and get the grants and to go and put those things in place. So any concerns from staff in this particular area? I mean, is this like just an amazing one-off year that we can go and all pat ourselves on the back about, or what's kind of the overall expectations within senior staff? Like, is this going to be sort of the normal as it's going on, and we really don't have to worry? Or I'm just more curious with what the staff thinking is on this particular one.
Certainly, through you, Chair. This is a trend that's been taking place since about 2020. So we were at 485 in 2020, 737 in 2021, $1,000,001, then 2.6, then 4.8 million, and we're trending in that direction. We've been quite successful in throughout the organization in being able to secure funding. I'm seeing 2025 moving in that same direction with that same trend. So there's been some discussion at the senior staff about certainly the capacity within the organization to be able to continue to manage this size of an envelope when it comes to grant funding. But it also allows us to leverage and reduce our reliance on municipal levy. So all of that is good news. We may need to look at resources. We regularly have conversations about that, and we're anticipating having to bring in some resources to help us manage that and make sure that we are accountable to our funders, able to meet reporting deadlines, able to meet the work that is required for the deliverables with all of these grants. So certainly we could have used an extra body in the 2 weeks at the end of March to get the land acquisitions off the table, but we managed it, and So yes, it's an ongoing conversation, and we recognize we're going to have to make changes, assuming this is continuing, and I don't see any reason why it can't if we continue to be successful.
Okay, thank you, and I think that's an important point. I mean, if we're predicting this is going to continue into the future, that's one thing. We always have to be cautious. So it's going on. Grants are a very funny thing. Maybe Monday there might be a change in government that's going to say we're not going to be spending any money on anything. Who the heck knows? So anyway, but good job. Thank you.
Member Whitavine?
There we go. Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. And I have more of a question on a revenue side, and because it's on the table, I wanted to probably ask staff. So, understandable. I sit as a Niagara Escarpment Commissioner too, and we saw that COVID time where we saw a great interest in people wanting to visit our parks and our recreation areas, and that's probably subsided. But now with with the climate out there, and people are apprehensive in traveling abroad, and so I'm looking at this coming year as a possible opportunity for the conservation areas and other natural areas to attract the local people. And we just last night we had a presentation by Niagara Parks, and they're a pretty aggressive group in the tourism world, and so I still think it's important for us to do outreach and promote what we have here as assets, and we'll call it the ecotourism component, because I think it's important for people to experience it, but also to generate that public support towards those areas. So I'm going to put that question out there. I'm not sure which staff member wants to tell me the great marketing plan we have for this year. So.
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you for the question. Before I defer to Director Christie, I think, yes, we may see those numbers increase as a result of that, and we do have ways of tracking activity at our parks and tracking whether or not that will affect our revenue generation as well. And we've already started some work on marketing, enhancing that as part of our projects this year, but I'll hand over to Director Christie if there's more to add.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Chair, I think Leilani really captured everything. I think this is exactly what we're looking to do this year. I think we have some incredible programs and services at our parks that would really attract our local residents, and also a variety, depending on whatever you're into. We've really tried to diversify our programming for everybody's interests. So, we're really optimistic about the season as well.
Are there any more questions for Lise regarding the Q4? Good. All right. Yes, the grant funding, and I believe that organizations and different levels of government are realizing the importance of conservation and wildlife and everything else that goes with it. So hopefully that trend continues. I'm a little more optimistic than pessimistic of what happens Monday, but we'll see what's in the cards. So we have a report. The motion before us is that report FA 1725, RE Financial Report Q4 2024 be received. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Member Grant, second by Member Whitavine. All in favor? And that is carried. So now we have report FA 1525 regarding 2025 budgets and municipal levies. And again, I'll invite Director Gagnon to provide a brief overview of the finalized 2025 budgets and municipal levies. Go ahead, Lise.
There we go. Sorry about that. So this is a regular report that comes to the board once all of the council approvals are complete with regards to the current fiscal year budgets, and that has now occurred. So this is a report on final approvals by municipal partners on 2025 operating and capital budgets. It's also an approval on reserve allocations for 2025, both capital and operating, in accordance with the reserves policy approved by this board, and approve a list of unfunded budget priorities for 2025. So on October 18th, the board passed a resolution to approve the 2025 budgets as presented with authority to bring forward to municipal partners for discussion. Further, staff report results of municipal discussions to the board in Q2 of 2025, which is what I'm here doing today. This report includes reserve balances carrying forward and available for 2025 in accordance with the policy. Municipal council approvals of 2025 levies, operating and capital budgets occurred for Niagara Region on December 12th, 2024, the City of Hamilton, February 12th, 2025, and Haldimand County, February 27th, 2025. All budgets were approved as presented with no changes recommended. Reserve allocations that are carrying forward into 2025, operating reserves of $852,819, capital reserves $979,270, and land securement reserves for Hamilton $1,227,000, Niagara $141,000, Cave Springs $145,000, and Haldimand $337. 2023 unfunded budget priorities. These represent critical pressures that current financial resources cannot accommodate. Approval is sought to allow staff to address these pressures should funding become available through external sources or within the approved budget envelope, and that has occurred. So we've been, this is a great way to allow staff to take advantage of funding opportunities. The 2025 capital budgets included a provision for capital projects in both Hamilton and Niagara, $500,000 for each partner municipality. Discussions and supporting documents have occurred with finance staff at both Hamilton and Niagara, and the process is ongoing. Staff will provide status updates to the board and committee as required. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Lise. Are there any questions? I have one, and it's regarding our $350 at $339 at Haldimand. Is that because the has been depleted, or is that? I know our levy is like $14,000 or $15,000 a year, so.
That's exactly right, Chair Metcalf, is that the reserve was utilized in the purchase of property in the Q1 of 2024.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Lise regarding the report? Okay, so I have a motion that report FA 15-2025 operating and capital budgets final be received, and that in accordance with the board approved reserve policy, the amount of $2,233,007 be allocated from reserves, capital, operating, and land securement to fund ongoing initiatives carried over from 2024 as per details provided in this report. And further, that 2025 unfunded budget priorities list attached as Appendix 1 be adopted, and staff be authorized to update this list, and address critical pressures as funding becomes available through external funding sources and or within the approved budget. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Member Foster, second by Vice Chair Beatty. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So now we'll move on to report FA 21-2025 or 25 procurement policy amendment. The Financial Committee received and endorsed the procurement policy amendment at the April 16th committee meeting. I'll invite Manager of Corporate Services Eric Gervais to present an overview of the proposed amendments to the procurement policy. Okay, thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the board the proposed procurement amendments that's aimed to enhance the efficiency and transparency of the competitive procurement activities within the NPCA. The report outlines key changes, including adjustments to the procurement threshold limits, the removal of the unsolicited proposals, updates to the conflict of interest guidelines, revisions to the competitive bid requirements, and all these amendments are designed to streamline processes and provide clarity in language to reduce the administrative burden and align the NPCA procurement practices with industry standards.
Thanks, Eric. Are there any questions regarding the report? Member Cridlin.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just the comment that this is another one of the reports that was discussed fairly well in the committee that we had in the previous week at the Finance Committee. Was it yeah, and we had no problems with it at that time. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Cridlin. Any other questions for Manager Gervais? Seeing none. So the motion before us that report FA 2125 procurement policy amendment be received and that the revised procurement policy as amended be approved. Can I mover and seconder, please? Moved by Vice Chair Beatty, second by Member Whitavine. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So report before us now, report FA 2225, delegation of authority policy amendment. The proposed amendments to the delegation of authority policy were also endorsed by the Finance Committee earlier this month. I'd like to invite Director Gagnon back to speak briefly on the report and proposed policy amendments. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, delegation of authority policy. This was originally approved by the board on April 16th, 2020. So a review and amendments are required both to dovetail with the procurement policy and to streamline processes, align with the growth of the organization, adjust for inflation. All of those components were looked at. We also reviewed the amendments are in alignment with NPCA's partners and in keeping with organizations of similar size and scope. I certainly don't think there's any benefit to my going through the policy itself, so I would entertain any questions at this point.
Thanks, Lisa. Are there any questions? Member Foster?
Yeah, no questions. Just, again, we went through this in a fair bit of detail at the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee didn't see any issues with it. So anyway, we're good to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Foster. So the motion before us that report FA 2225, delegation of authority be received, and that the revised delegation of authority policy as appended, be approved. Can mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Member Seaborn, second by Member Cridland. All in favor? And that is carried. And before us now, we have report FA 0725, agreement of services between the Township of Wainfleet and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. The Township of Wainfleet approved proceeding with a service level agreement with the NPCA at their April 8th council meeting. Staff are bringing forward this report as directed at our previous meeting. Now that the township has had the opportunity to deliberate, are there any questions for staff regarding report FA 0725? Okay. Seeing none, so the motion before us is that report FA 0725, agreement of services between the Corporation of the Town of Wainfleet and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be received, and that the agreement of services between the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be approved, and that the CAO, Secretary Treasurer, and NPCA Chair be authorized to sign required documents to execute said agreement, And further, that the final executed agreement of services between the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be made publicly available on the NPCA's website. Can I have a mover and seconder for that one to get on the floor, please? Moved by Member Foster, second by Member Grant. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Now before us, we have report FA 2325, Agreement of Services between the City of Port Colborne and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. This report proposes entering into a service level agreement with the City of Port Colborne, which was approved at a council meeting earlier this year. Does anyone have any questions regarding this report? Member Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's not so much a question as a comment back through to our communications staff. Get this out and make sure that it's very clearly shown, both of these agreements. Lots of talk about shared services go on between all these different organizations here in Niagara. We're actually doing it, so I think this would be very positive to put out there and make sure everybody knows and understands we're actually listening. So thank you.
Great comments, Member Foster. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this report? So the motion before us, that report FA 2325, Agreement of Services between the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne and Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be received, and that the agreement of services between the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne and Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be approved, and that the CAO Treasurer and NPCA Chair be authorized to sign required documents to execute said agreement. And further, that the final executed agreement of the services between the City of Port Colborne and the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority be made publicly available on the NPCA's website. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please? Moved by Member Cridlin, second by Member Witteveen. Thank you. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So now we have report FA 1925, Public Advisory Committee recommended appointments. Up next, we have recommended appointments to fill vacancies on the Public Advisory Committee. We received the appendix to report FA 1925 in the enclosed session package distributed. If there are any questions pertaining to the confidential appendix, we will adjourn to closed session for discussion. Does anyone have questions for Manager Davis regarding the report presented? Member Witteveen.
Just a quick question to staff is, did we have enough interest to fill our full complement?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, we were actually pleasantly surprised with kind of the turnout in applications for the vacancies that we were seeking to fill. So we had roughly equal amounts of applicants for each of the 3 positions we were looking to appoint in this round. I will note that we do still have some seats for First Nations representation around the advisory committee that would be appointed through the appropriate bodies of government. So we're looking to connect with those parties in the near future, but those would be at the discretion of Mississaugas of the Credit and Six Nations on the Grand River if they have capacity to appoint someone. It doesn't affect the quorum at this time.
Thanks, Manager Davis, for that update. So the motion before us at report FA 1925, Public Advisory Committee representative appointments be received, and that the NPCA Board of Directors appoints the individuals identified in confidential Appendix 1 to report number FA 19-25 to the Public Advisory Committee, and that board approval appointees to the Public Advisory Committee identified in confidential Appendix 1 to report FA 19-25 be noted in public record. And further, that the Public Advisory Committee be informed. So I'm mover and seconder for that one, please. Moved by Member Grant, seconded by Member Witteveen. Thank you. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So item 10.1, minutes of the Governance Committee dated March 21st, 2025. A motion that the minutes of the Governance Committee dated March 21st, 2025 be approved. Can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by member Credlin, second by member Grant. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. So we have notices of motion. So I'll read this out and then go to the motions. So now we're moving into section 11, motions. Do any members around the table have any motions that they would like to bring forward today? I see member Foster has his hands up. Member Foster.
Yes, thank you, and I just want to make sure that we follow our procedural bylaw appropriately with this. I have two motions that I wish to bring forward today. If committee says it should be notice of motion, that's fine, but I think they're both somewhat important. So, and I will, as I go through them, I think that will explain what's going on. So, so if I'll say the first one, and then maybe committee can decide if it's worth dealing with today or doing it as a notice of motion. Is that fair, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely, Member Foster. And if you'd like to start with your first motion, go ahead.
Great, thank you. The first motion, so we ran into a bit of a problem with the Rockway Conservation Area, and it's both a good and a bad thing. Number one is that there's lots of use being made of that particular area, and we are, and of course we've spent a fair substantial amount of money to go and fix it up and make it top notch. The only problem is that people aren't parking. We have this beautiful parking lot, but they are deciding that they're going to be parking along the regional road. This has created a substantial problem in and through that area. As you know, the region recently redid that road. People are traveling relatively fast through it. That's a whole other issue that we as regional councillors have to deal with that particular stretch of road, and there's going to be more discussion at Public Works. And by the way, our Public Works Chair is a member of our committee. Thank you, Mr. Witteveen. So anyway, so the motion that I have is whereas infrastructure upgrades, including automated gates, have been installed at Rockway Conservation Area, whereas paid parking rates have been established at Rockway Conservation Area through the NPCA's budget process, be it resolved that the NPCA hereby suspend the collection of parking fees at Rockway Conservation Area, and that staff be directed to assess financial implication of the suspension of parking fees at Rockway Conservation Area for the remainder of 2025, and that staff be directed to bring forward recommendations that address any financial implications in 2026 budget discussions, and that the NPCA continue to explore equitable initiatives to limit financial barriers to NPCA conservation areas, and further that the NPCA prioritize the completion management plans for high visitation conservation areas, including but not limited to Rockway Conservation Area. Now, just one other comment with this. We ran into a substantive problem with St. John's. I know Mr. Christie was pulling his hair out as we were going through that particular set of problems. It's really no, although his hair looks good. We really, in the end, have to take a step back and look at what we're doing with these particular conservation areas. No disrespect to our previous CAO, but she was hell-bent to go and have parking fees at every place that we possibly have. And, you know, we've had discussions in and around this. I'm really not sure that it's the appropriate way for us to be going. Our tag is nature for all. I don't want to be throwing up artificial concerns in and around how people are making use of our facilities. So I think it's worth taking a time out and a step back. Just trust me, I held off a motion coming through the region of Niagara on this. I said it was inappropriate to be doing that, not me. Others were coming forward with it. Anyway, I think we need to take the step back and look at it. So I'll leave it up to committee if we can deal with this today. If not, notice of motion and for the next one. So I'll leave that to committee to decide.
Thank you, Member Foster, and valid points. And I was there last fall, taking some pictures and noticed that the traffic that was parked on the side of the road was in a hazardous area. As you know, that area has a few curves and some hills and just the beautiful parking lot that wasn't utilized 100%. So I'll delegate to Member Clark has some comments. We can't hear you, Member Clark. Okay, just hold on, Member Clark. We just technical difficulties maybe at our end here.
If we can get a comparison, Member Grant, can you check your mic? Speak into your mic.
I apologize. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, we're just going to take a few minutes to pause briefly and work with Member Clark to make sure we've got sound working accordingly.
Member Clark, I guess I can just suggest checking your device settings to make sure it's your headset or computer.
All right, Member Clark, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair. My apologies for the technical issues. It's an old computer and it's an old operator, so the combination can cause problems sometimes. I was just going to suggest another avenue that you may wish to look at. The Hamilton Conservation Authority has had real issues with parking at a number of our waterfalls. Our waterfalls are promoted by the city of Hamilton, and so we regularly get thousands of people coming to our waterfalls on any weekend. The Devil's Punch Bowl, for example, we had people parking illegally on both sides of the road and not using the parking lots that are available to them. And we worked with the city of Hamilton to pass a bylaw with a $250 fine if you illegally park on that roadway between April and November, I think it was. It solved the problem. People very quickly realized that the cost of parking on the road is pretty expensive if you get ticketed compared to the cost of parking in the parking lot. It has been used across the city, out in the Flamborough-Dundas area, as well as Devil's Punch Bowl, and it has worked very well. So it's something that you may want to consider in discussions with Niagara Region. The issue of parking on the sides of the road became a real safety hazard for the city. We had people walking along the sides of the road, and all of a sudden we only had one lane of permitted traffic because people were parking on both sides. It's worth consideration. We continue to use paid parking in our lots at the HCA, and we are expanding that to other lots as we go along. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Member Clark. Member Foster?
So my question to begin with is procedurally, are we okay to go forward, or do you want to move this as a notice of motion? I'm good with either one, but I'll leave it to the chair. Do you want to poll the committee on that, or how would you like to proceed?
I would like to deal with it as soon as possible because of the hiking season and the tourist season is upon us now, and schools will be out shortly, so those places will be visited as the weather gets better now. So I'm comfortable dealing with it now. Member Beatty, you have a question?
A clarification, at the Finance Committee, did we not ask staff to consider, reconsider, and come back with a report, or did we not?
Through the chair, there wasn't that specific direction to staff. What this recommendation would allow us to do is exactly that, take it back, do the proper analysis and assessment, and come back and report on it. We recognize there are various elements that affect the use of pay gates and the amount of infrastructure improvements and operation costs that go into our high-use passive recreational areas. So we'd like to take that time so we can make that fulsome assessment and bring it back. Oh, sorry.
Member Foster?
Okay, so I would like to move the motion that I've read out. I don't have a seconder. Can I get Councillor Witteveen? Hopefully will second that.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for the motion. All those.
You have the motion again, please?
Yeah. So, do you want me to read it, Rob? Sure. So the motion on the floor is, whereas infrastructure upgrades, including automated gates, have been installed at Rockaway Conservation Area, whereas paid parking rates have been established at Rockaway Conservation Area through the NPCA's budget process, be it resolved that the NPCA hereby suspend the collection of parking fees at Rockaway Conservation Area, and that staff be directed to assess financial implications of the suspension of parking fees at Rockaway Conservation Area for the remainder of 2025, and that staff be directed to bring forward recommendations that address any financial implications in the 2026 budget discussions, and that the NPCA continue to explore equitable initiatives to limit financial barriers to NPCA conservation areas, and further that the NPCA prioritize the completion of management plans for high visitation conservation areas, including but not limited to Rockaway Conservation Area. So all those in favor? Opposed? Opposed is 1. Thank you. That's carried.
So my second motion this morning, and I think I will put this in as a notice of motion, that staff be directed to review any discretionary travel to the U.S. for the 2025 calendar year, and that guidance be developed by the CAO and senior leadership on what requires cross-border travel for the 2025 calendar year, and that Canadian institutions and service providers be prioritized and sourced for professional development, training, and education programs where feasible, and further that staff be directed to report back on discretionary travel measures on or before December 19th, 2025. So I'm good putting that in as a notice of motion, and hopefully staff are doing this anyway, but anyway, I'll put that in as a notice of motion.
Okay, thanks, Member Foster. So we need to vote on that?
Just a mover and seconder to receive it.
Okay, so I'll need a mover by Member Foster. I'll need a seconder for that. Member Beatty, and we'll, just to receive?
To receive it.
No, you don't need to.
Okay, I'll just, all right, thank you. So now we'll be moving into closed session. There's one item on the agenda for closed session. I'll need a mover and seconder. We're not coming back after closed session.
Not to the live stream.
Not to the live stream. So moved by Member Witteveen, seconded by Member Grant, that we're moving into closed session at 12:15. All in favor? That is carried.